In the heart of New Orleans, beneath the veil of the shadowy streets, there lies an ancient and eerie legend. It is a tale that has been whispered among the locals for over a century, passed down in hushed tones in the French Quarter and recounted in taverns late into the night. This is the legend of the Carter brothers, two figures whose names have become synonymous with the supernatural and the macabre. They were men who, according to the tales, were not entirely of this world. The history of the Carter brothers is, like many aspects of New Orleans itself, a blend of myth and reality, of truth buried beneath layers of folklore. Their story begins in the early 19th century, when New Orleans was a city at the crossroads of cultures, where voodoo, French aristocracy, Spanish influence, and African traditions collided in a tempest of music, spirits, and mystery. It was in 1815, amidst the tumult of the War of 1812, that the Carter brothers, Edgar and Elias, arrived in New Orleans. They were young men, both in their early 20s, who claimed to have come from a distant plantation in the Deep South. Their origins, however, were as mysterious as their future. They spoke little of their past, and the few details they shared were often contradictory. Some said they were the sons of wealthy landowners in Louisiana. Others claimed they were orphans raised by nuns, but one thing was certain: there was something about them that set them apart from the rest of the city's population. The brothers were striking in appearance. Edgar, the elder of the two, was tall and gaunt, with pale skin that seemed almost luminous in the moonlight. His eyes, an unsettling shade of violet, would often flash with a strange, almost predatory gleam. Elias, the younger brother, had jet black hair that cascaded in waves down to his shoulders. Together they became an enigma, drawn to the city's underbelly, yet never truly fitting in with his residents. They settled in a small, decrepit mansion on the edge of the French Quarter, a place that locals avoided due to its unsettling energy. The house, once grand, had fallen into disrepair over the years. Its windows boarded up, and the ivy creeping up the brickwork gave it an almost forgotten appearance. It became known as the Carter House, a place where strange things were rumored to occur. Disappearances, strange noises in the dead of the night, and a thick fog that seemed to roll in from the Mississippi River, shrouding the mansion in a ghostly veil. It wasn't long before the people of New Orleans began to notice strange occurrences around the Carter brothers. Those who ventured too close to their mansion spoke of unnatural coldness, even on the hottest summer nights. They claimed to hear voices coming from inside, but no one ever saw the brothers entertaining guests. And there were whispers, always whispers, of their unholy nature. In 1820, a local merchant by the name of Charles Bouchard gave the first recorded account of a suspicious encounter with the brothers. Bouchard, a skeptic by nature, was a man who had little patience for ghost stories and superstitions. However, one evening, as he was walking down Chartres Street near the Carter House, he saw Elias standing outside the gate, staring into the street. The air around him was cold, too cold for a summer evening, and Bouchard could have sworn he saw Elias's eyes flicker with an unnatural red hue. Curious and slightly unnerved, Bouchard approached the gate, only to have Elias turn his gaze upon him. The merchant recalled that the look was chilling, as if he had been caught in the stare of a predator. Elias smiled, an unsettling grin that stretched from ear to ear, showing teeth far sharper than any man should possess. Bouchard quickly retreated, feeling as though the ground beneath his feet had shifted. That night, Bouchard returned to his home and fell ill. He was plagued by nightmares of strange creatures lurking in the streets, of shadows stretching unnaturally long, and of the brothers, Edgar and Elias, chasing him through the mist-filled alleyways. When he finally awoke, drenched in sweat, he found 2 small puncture marks on his neck. Though the fever eventually subsided, Bouchard never again ventured near the Carter House. People spoke of seeing them in the shadows of the night, moving with a grace that was almost inhuman, almost as if they were gliding rather than walking. It was said that they never aged and that they always appeared just a little too perfect. Their skin always flawless, their eyes always piercing, even though they spent most of their days hidden from the public eye. In 1835, a series of mysterious deaths occurred in the neighborhood surrounding the Carter House. Several young women were found drained of their blood, their bodies cold to the touch, with 2 small puncture marks visible on their necks. The local authorities were baffled, unable to find any leads or suspects. However, those who lived closest to the Carter house knew better than to speak openly of their suspicions. The brothers had never been seen during the day, but at night they seemed to vanish into the mist and the deaths continued. One particularly chilling account came from a young woman who disappeared, named Isabelle Dufresne. In 1836, Isabelle was working as a servant in one of the more affluent households in the French Quarter. She had often heard stories about the Carter brothers, but never thought much of them until the night she herself encountered them. Isabelle was walking home alone from the market when she noticed a strange figure standing in the shadows near the corner of St. Louis and Chartres Street. It was Edgar. She described him as tall and elegant, but with an air of menace that sent a chill down her spine. She remembered his eyes, those violet eyes that seemed to shine with an inner light, and his smile, too wide and too knowing. He spoke to her, his voice soft and hypnotic, urging her to come closer, offering promises of eternal life and beauty. Isabelle, frozen by the strange power of his gaze, felt herself drawn toward him. But before she could move, she heard a voice, a distant, almost inaudible voice, calling her name. It was enough to snap her from the trance, and Isabelle fled, her heart pounding in her chest. When she looked back, Edgar was gone, disappearing into the fog like a wisp of smoke. The next morning, Isabelle discovered 2 small puncture marks on her neck. She disappeared not long after that night. Her family later spoke of the strange dream she had been having about the brothers leading up to her disappearance. By the mid-1800s, the Carter brothers had woven themselves into the very fabric of New Orleans' dark lore, but their influence extended beyond the streets of the French Quarter and the whispered tales of the common folk. They had become entangled with the voodoo culture of the city, particularly with the infamous Marie Laveau, the voodoo queen of New Orleans. According to some accounts, the Carter brothers and Laveau shared a dark connection, one that was rooted in ancient magic. It is said that Edgar and Elias, having lived for over a century, sought immortality through blood and dark rituals. And it was Marie Laveau who provided them with the means to secure their unholy existence. In exchange, the brothers served as her protectors, ensuring that her secrets remained buried deep within the streets of the city. However, the nature of their pact with Laveau is a subject of much debate. Some say they were her lovers, bound to her by the power of the blood that flowed between them. Others believe that they were her enforcers, carrying out her will with ruthless precision. Whatever the truth may be, the connection between the Carter brothers and the Voodoo Queen cemented their place in the city's most haunted and mysterious legends. Though the brothers disappeared from public view in the early 1900s, their legend has only grown over the years. Numerous accounts of encounters with the Carter brothers continue to surface even in modern times. Some say they still walk the streets of New Orleans unchanged by the passages of time. In the 1970s, a group of college students reported seeing a pair of men matching the description of the Carter brothers near the old Carter house. The students were exploring the ruins of the mansion when they were confronted by the brothers, who appeared out of nowhere as though they had materialized out of the fog. The students fled in terror, and though they later tried to report the incident, their claims were dismissed as drunken delusions. More recently, in 2015, a tour guide named Sarah Leclerc shared her chilling experience. While leading a ghost tour through the French Quarter, she noticed 2 men standing on the steps of the old Carter house. At first, she thought they were just part of the tour group, but when she approached them, she realized they looked far too perfect, their skin pale and untouched by age. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light of the street lamps, and Sarah found herself unable to look away. When she finally managed to tear her gaze from them, they were gone, leaving no trace behind. Sarah was not the only one to report such sightings. In fact, locals swear that the Carter brothers are still among them, watching from the shadows, their influence still as potent as ever. Whether they are truly vampires or simply a manifestation of New Orleans' dark past, the Carter brothers remain an enigma, a part of the city's living mythos. The Carter house, though long abandoned, is still a site of pilgrimage for those curious enough to seek out the truth. Some say the mansion is cursed, that it holds the key to the brothers' immortality, and that if you stand too long outside, you might catch a glimpse of them in the windows, pale, perfect, and waiting.